94.3 WYBC, number one for R&B hits and oldies. This is Juan Castillo, and this is the Electric Drum. Now, this morning, I have a young man here, Tremaine who are very, very, positive youth in our community, positive young man in our community, who's doing some great things. And we're going to talk to him about his life. We're going to talk about this company that he has, Driven to Inspire. And they do motivational, speaking engagements. And this brother is fantastic young man, and and in this community is very, very, glad to have him. He's from Meriden. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right. Well, let's talk about you, man. How'd you get to Meriden? Well, first of all, I know you're originally from New York, right?
Yes, I am.
All right. Tell us about growing up, in New York and then moving up to Meriden.
I'm originally, like you said, from Long Island, New York. A phenomenal place to be raised, pretty diverse. I really advocate for Long Island, New York, just being the fact that it is so diverse, and that's pretty much how our community should be. Just not dominated by one race or one culture, but you pretty much is the melting pot of diversity. So that's my original home, but I have a lot of love for Connecticut. Connecticut has been an establishing foundation for me to pretty much create my identity and figure out who I am. So like you said, Connecticut is now my home, and it feels good to be in Connecticut.
Now, tell us about growing up in Long Island. I mean, a high school and family and so forth and so on.
In regards to family pretty much established who I am in regards to morals, values, and principles. I always acknowledge my parents for helping me mature into the man that I am. I was pretty much blessed with the opportunity of being raised by both my mother and my father, and they were a dynamic team in regards to raising me. In regards to high school and growing up in Long Island, New York, it's pretty much been a growing process, so to say, because the man that I used to be is no longer the man that I am. Fortunately, I was able to grow up with trial and error, but now as I'm getting a little bit older in age, now those lifelong lessons are starting to stick and now I'm able to share those lifelong lessons and messages with people coming up behind me. So it's been an amazing journey thus far.
That's great. So went through high school. Anything that interested you the most in high school while you weren't going through school? Any mentors?
When I was in high school, I was an athlete. Voted outstanding athlete. I was pretty much involved with sports. Sports pretty much ran my schedule, my routine. So it kept me busy. So I was really fortunate to have some phenomenal coaches who help work with my parents. On Facebook, I had put the other day that it's still, even in 2013, it still takes a community to raise a child. So when I was growing up, my coaches, my head coaches and assistant coaches, they came together and kind of reiterated those expectations and standards of greatness that my parents put on me at an early age. And now that I'm 29 years old, I'm still, I still call my coaches. I still go back to my high school and I just say thank you. And sometimes they say, oh, no, that's what I'm supposed to do as a coach. But I think sometimes they undersell the value of what they really did, because all of that work that they put into me and my teammates, now we're actually in a place to be able to share that with other people, and that's priceless.
Yeah, and that's the theme that I get from most people that come here talk to me. How there had to be a community of folks that helped them, and the reason they're so successful today is because there was a community of folks. This is Juan Castillo, and I'm talking to Tremaine. He's from Meriden. Originally grew up in Long Island, and we're talking to him about his life, and we're going to be talking a little while about this company that he has. He's a motivational speaker. The name of the company is Driven to Inspire. Okay, so so what did you play, by the way? What sports did you play?
My dominant sport was football.
Okay.
I played football, I played basketball, and I also ran track. Okay. So that was all school year. And then I was blessed with the opportunity of coming to Connecticut and playing college football at Southern Connecticut State University, where I graduated from, and also had the opportunity of coaching there for a year and some change. So sports was pretty much a contributing factor to me becoming the man that I am, because there's certain aspects of life that if you're an athlete, you're going to be able to tap into within your day-to-day activity, beyond just competing against your coworkers or competing against the struggles of life. But if you're an athlete, there are certain moments when you experience adversity, and that's just like life. When you go through life, there's unexpected adversity that happens, just like in any kind of game that an athlete might go through. And then there's also that will to win. So for me, I have this burning desire. I live by that hard work grinding towards greatness, allowing your grind to produce greatness. That's within my veins. But I also got that from being an athlete, because when my back was against the wall, I was forced to dig deep and tap into that will to win. And now what I also do is transition my athletic mentality into my day-to-day lifestyle. So it's phenomenal. When I go speak to student athletes, I constantly encourage them to seize that moment of being an athlete. But just because once your athletic career is over, that doesn't mean life is over. That just means that now everything that you've learned from being an athlete, now apply that to your day-to-day life, and you can still become a champion of life.
Now, it's interesting that you mentioned this, because, one of the things that people have talked for years about is how, especially in the African-American community, athletes sort of like lose their way. The NBA, NFL, it's there, and you want, and that's your goal, What happened in college that allowed you to really begin to understand that it really wasn't all about that, but also about the fact that, that there was life after Southern, Talk about that a little bit.
My junior year, for the first 3 years of my life, it was about, being an athlete. It was about playing football. And then my junior year, I tore my ACL and my meniscus completely.
Wow.
And I came to a crossroad of my life for the first time. It wasn't about sports. It wasn't about playing basketball. It wasn't about, working out. It was about now what? And I actually had to start focusing on education. I had to focus on life after sports. And that's one of my most passionate messages that I speak to student athletes about, is life after sports. Because I remember sitting in my locker room when a doctor told me that, it was going to take at least a year or two for me to heal, and I knew I only had a year left. And I was probably at the peak of my career physically, competing for, playing time, and I had to work for that. And now to just have that taken away in the moments of seconds, it was a real gut check. So when I tore my ACL, that's when I started really transitioning to, like, what am I going to do now? And then that's when I kind of really realized how easy academics can be if you really start applying yourself. When I was a student athlete, I was multitasking between being an athlete and a student, and also the recreational activities that I had. But for once, I was able to just focus on going to class as a student. And I realized that if I apply myself, it really wasn't that difficult to get an A or a B. All I had to do was put in that work and transition that same hard work that I was putting in the weight room into going to the library, making sacrifices that I had to make playing football, such as not doing drugs and hanging around the right crowd. I had to make those same sacrifices in regards to my academics. And then that's when I really started excelling within my academics and realizing that, I can be a professional. I might not be an NBA athlete or NFL athlete, but I could be a professional and have honor and integrity, and also live by certain standards that these certain celebrities and athletes do within my day-to-day life.
And it's interesting because, ACL, that's exactly what RG3, that's his same injury, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and as an athlete, when you're going through that, when you're healthy, you don't think about the injuries, you're just concerned about the fact that you're gonna be fine. And sooner or later, you're going to get a contract, So that was a great transition for you. So so you graduate out of college, man. What do you do?
Now, once I graduated, I had to make a decision if I go back to Long Island, New York, or do I make Connecticut my home. And I was blessed with the opportunity of getting a job immediately after I graduated. So it made more sense for me to stay out here and work with the youth. And my first professional job out here was dealing with youth from the inner city of New Haven. And then that really scratched the surface of this whole motivational movement, because I thought about it like, inner city youth from New Haven are showing me so much love, and it's rewarding. So I said, this is what I want to do. you know, this rewarding factor of sitting with this young man or this young lady and now being able to help them become great in something in life, or just say, you know what, I understand where you're going and I see the best in you, regardless of what the community might say, regardless of what society might say, regardless of what your parents might say, I see greatness in you. And then those rewarding experiences started adding up. And then I was blessed with, you know, moving forward professionally from working with, you know, at Job Corps. I worked in New Haven Job Corps. I currently also work in Hartford Job Corps. But my whole life is involved with dealing with motivating and empowering people to excel in their life.
And you know, and it's interesting because you know, going back to what you talked about, you know, earlier in your life with your parents and the coaches and all of that. And to a large degree, that's what they were trying to do. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I think that parents, you know, are motivational speakers to some degree. Are. You know what I mean? And you know, but there's an emotion involved with that. And it's also, you know, as young people, you know, when we're young, you know, we don't want to listen to a lot of that because, you know, we figure that we know everything. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you know, you're doing a wonderful job, man. That's great, man. You know, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on the show, because what this show was all about is about, you know, really, you know, getting folks to understand that, you know, that right here in Connecticut and right here in New Haven, Meriden, you know, all the other towns, that even though we might have some problems, we got a lot of people working with our kids, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's not about, you know, the fact that we're not trying. Mm-hmm. You know, we're doing what we have to do. You know, there's some socioeconomic issues as well as, you know, and as well as some issues in our community that we need to take care of. However, that doesn't mean that we're not working hard at trying to help our kids. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So that's great, man. So tell me about Driven to Inspire.
Driven to Inspire, an amazing blessing. It kind of created a venue or an avenue for everything else to make sense. See, I was moving forward professionally. I was making a difference in regards to working with people, but on a larger scale, when we start talking about a business entity, how can we came to a place of how are you going to be able to get into the high schools? How are you going to be able to get into these colleges? How are you going to be able to get into these professional organizations and be able to motivate and inspire individuals, my brothers and sisters? And Driven to Inspire is that venue. It focuses on motivational trainings. It focuses on motivational sessions and mentorship. It focuses on giving back and just community service and social responsibilities. It focuses on being able to offer an avenue for other people who say, I have a voice, I have a story to tell, but I never thought of how I never created or I never knew about an opportunity of being able to do that. Okay, I'm John Doe off the street and I have a phenomenal story to tell, but how do I get into Hill House? You know, or what kind of entity can I have in regards to say, this is what I represent? So what we did, myself and two other co-founders, Robert Felder and Jerome Freeman, what we did was we came together and created a business entity that said, we want to build. It's not about us three. It's about the team. And it's ultimately about the long-term vision of being able to offer services that people can actually, you know, utilize moving forward. So Driven to Inspire focuses on motivational sessions, training, seminars, workshops, community service, and social responsibilities.
And what we had talked earlier, you know, prior to the interview, we had talked about the fact that so often, you know, when, you know, you work at your, you know, different jobs, you know, the company brings in a motivational speaker, mm-hmm. you know, to kind of like, you know, pump up, you know, the crew, you know, salespeople, people who work, you know, in I do IT work, you know, the whole nine, you know, and one of the things that you're talking about in terms of this company is for you not only to be able to inspire just young people, mm-hmm. but also, I mean, sometimes, you know, adults need to be inspired.
That's true, very true.
And your company, and I will let all the other companies know out here mm-hmm. that you can get in contact with Tremaine, because what his company does is to also go out to companies and speaks to groups that, in fact, might need that.
Yes, we do. We bridge the gap. We're looking at bridging the gap, not only from an inner city perspective, or not only, like you said, from a youth or young adult perspective, but from also an adult and professional perspective as well. There are so many gaps that are still out there within our community. Driven to Inspire serves to be that diverse, you know, reflective image of society, where, we want, Hispanics, we want Caucasians, we want young, old, wise, we want African Americans, we want that, this business entity to be ultimately reflective of what life should look like, pretty much people who understand the realities of life, but are also optimistic about the blessings that may come in the future. And that's what we want to do, is we want to speak life and share love through our services, whether that's one encounter or actually an extended program that might last a month or two.
That's fantastic. This is Juan Castillo, and I'm speaking with Tremaine France. He's, one of the founders of Driven to Inspire. This is a company that does motivational speaking, but a whole lot more. It's been a fantastic, session with you, brother. I'm so happy to see young black men, that are standing up and, and that are educated and that are, are trying to not only, further their careers, but also try to help this community. And you're one of those guys, man. Before you leave, though, you play basketball, so you know about give and go, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
Okay, so I'm going to say something. The first thing that comes to your mind, hit me.
Got it.
Your favorite meal, man?
Lasagna.
All right. Favorite moment in your life?
Proposing to my fiance.
That's great. How about favorite moment in your career?
Establishing Driven to Inspire.
That's great. What's the best advice you ever got, and from who?
My father, he said, Tremaine, make sure you don't empty, the cabinet, so to say, because, the pantry, so to say. He said, because in your profession, what you've been blessed with, there are always there are always people who need something from you. And if you exhaust all that you have now, there's going to be a point in time when someone really needs you. And if you're on E and that cabinet isn't full, you can't feed them with anything. And so now I'm conscious of that as I continue to, sort of like that young bull, old bull, when you're young and you have all of this energy, you just want to run 1,000 miles per hour, but you have to see down the line. You have to see, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So I'm humbly starting to learn that and understand that, I could give you all that I have, but I also have to preserve some of that, because there's going to be that moment where someone is reaching out to you at 3 a.m. and they really need to talk to you. And if you don't have that, and you bypass them thinking about tomorrow, sometimes, unfortunately, tomorrow is never guaranteed. So I'm really big on that, seizing this moment and making sure that I actually have, that 5-hour energy drink, so to say, in my back pocket, just in case somebody might need that extra motivation or inspiration.
Right, so keep that pantry full, right?
There you go. There you go.
What's your favorite TV show?
ESPN. I can't, unfortunately, on my lifestyle, I can't sit down and watch a whole game, but I can't sit down and watch ESPN for half an hour and get caught up on all of the updates and scores.
Yeah, first take, man. Every morning I'm listening to Stephen A.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
All right, favorite late night snack while you're watching that TV show, man?
Oh, I'm a big dessert kind of guy. Ice cream or cereal, one of those two. I'm definitely a ice cream kind of man. No, late night when I get off.
It's cool. Favorite movie?
My favorite movie. I'm gonna go with the classic Above the Rim. That's my favorite. I could watch that like it's the first time every time.
That's hot. Yeah, that was a great movie. Now, if you needed a partner to accomplish a goal, who would you pick, and who would you trust the most?
I'm really big on trust. I keep my circle really tight. But if I was to have a partner and work with someone on any kind of level, Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis, I have a lot of respect for Ray Lewis. His passion, I feel like we have certain similarities from the little bit that I do know of him based on what, the media depicts of him.
Yes.
But his passion within his profession, and then his ability to be able to transition into that professional world and then also acknowledge God on the ultimate stadium. And, that's one thing that I have been willing to do, is acknowledge that. Even in all of my professional endeavors, I respectfully acknowledge, that I've accepted God and Christ in my life. And I think that's part of my effectiveness. It's all of my effectiveness, because it's all of him and less of me. But one thing that I have done is been able to be an example, especially to these young men and these young ladies, saying, you can still have a swagger. You know, you can still be cool. You can still be an athlete. You can still be a ladies' man. You can still do all of these other things. But at the core of it, just make that you have some sense of purpose. Make sure that there's someone, and you know, that's bigger than you. You know, and then the way you humbly share that with other people, if you're genuine, they embrace it and they say, okay, I might not be ready for that yet, Tremaine, but at least I heard it and I have an example. Because remember, life is about examples. So one thing that I strive to do is just to be that example. I'm the first person to tell you I'm not perfect. We all have our flaws, but one thing that I am doing is I'm striving to, you know, to be my best. And while I'm striving to be my best, I'm going to be willing to walk aside of you or beside you, and also encourage you to be your best as we continue to both, you know, press towards greatness.
It's great, man. Well, Tremaine France, you've inspired us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
From driven to inspired. What's the number? Is there a number that people can get in contact with you at?
The best way to get in contact would be we have a website, driventoinspire.com, where you can get all of the information about our services. You can also fill out a needs assessment if you're interested in having us come to your establishment. We're also on, you know, on Facebook, you know, Tremaine France. If you search engine that on Facebook, I don't have fans, but I have, you know, friends. You know, I haven't gotten to that magnitude. I don't think I'll ever be there where I'll say I have fans, but I do have family, you know, brothers and sisters, and we're all in this together. Twitter, you know, I'm on Twitter at the Motivator, and then Instagram, you could check that out, you know, at the Motivator or Tremaine France search engine, all of those. I try to utilize social media as the best way to get in contact with me, just being on the fact of it. I was talking to one of my, you know, mentors, and he was saying how, and I told him, I said, I embrace the fact of his journey. You know, he's blessed with 50 years of being able to do similar things that I'm striving to do. And I said, to be honest, 20 years? I said, I look at my 4 years at what I'm doing now with motivational speaking. I still look back and be like, wow, it's 4 years. And he told me one thing. He said, Tremaine, he said, one thing, the difference between where you're at and where I was at, he said, social media. He said, social media will speed up your process in regards to going into the direction that you want. Because old school way was, you know, obviously you had, you know, the email or you might have a phone call, but everything was face to face, you know. So I utilize, you know, the social media to be able to speed up that process and also share the motivational movement, because what we're speaking about is the motivational movement. It's actually figuring out, you know, its own unique way to motivate and inspire people, whether that's through modeling, acting, music, you know, motivational speaking is not just one, you know, one aspect that you could say, for example, with Tremaine France. Well, what do you do? Well, I do motivational speaking, but I'm also doing a little acting on the side. Right. Or you know what? I'm not only doing acting, but I'm doing a little modeling on the side. But that comes together and creates the bigger picture of life in regards to the puzzle of life.
And that helps with success. You
yes,
know, because
it does.
like, you know, you got to have a lot of irons in the fire today.
There you go.
There's no question. Thank you so much for coming, man.
Thank you for having me.
This community is glad that you're around, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
Juan Castillo, this is the Electric Drum. Have a great weekend. See you next week.